Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Jenny Aiello, and this is With Love, Jenny, a podcast where we meet ourselves right in the heart of our vulnerability and authenticity. In this sacred space where it's just you and I dive into real life, rich with wisdom and opportunities for deep healing. I explore what it means to truly connect to ourselves, to each other, and to something much greater than us all. In each podcast, I like to meet life right where it touches us most, in our tenderness, in our truth, in our struggles and our strength. So wherever you are on your journey, or whatever it is that you're carrying, no matter how light or heavy, just know I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin today's episode. Well, hello, and welcome back to With Love, Jenny. We are going to dive into a really interesting topic today, and this is for all of you out there that are moms who are either one, stay-at-home moms, or you are moms that are in the workforce, and how to manage stress, how to find joy, how to build community and connection, why you have to do that, no matter what your status is. If you are a full-time job as homemaker, parenting, taking care of business, or you are a full-time employee or entrepreneur that has a job. So this is about women needing to take care of themselves in general, and how to redefine that. And I find this topic in almost all of my coaching calls, we come upon this in some capacity. I find everyone struggling. Also with men that I coach, in understanding and respecting the role of women in whatever role and capacity they are contributing to the household, and appreciating what that's like, because most of the time they are out there going to work. I have a son who is the stay-at-home parent and is like, man, I should have paid closer attention. It's hard. I don't know how this all got done for me as a kid. I didn't expect myself to be in that role. And so I've appreciated and learned and watched about how are we growing as society with the rise of women into careers and women choosing to still hold that traditional role of stay-at-home mom, and taking care of things without falling into a category of disempowerment in society. There's some stigma around that right now. I have some who are trying really hard to be really good stay-at-home moms and do that. And society is, there's some people that they feel judged by that look down upon them for doing so.
Oh, it's a real thing of comparisons with stay-at-home moms of who is the better Pinterest, holistic mom. Like, who can do it better? And it's horrible.
Even those comparisons for the ones that are working and still trying to be.
Well, then you feel even worse. I remember going to my son's kindergarten muffins with mom for Mother's Day. And I was only one of the only working moms, and you feel like an outsider. They look at you like, oh, your husband doesn't make enough money for you to be able to be the best mom you can be.
Or you're choosing to work and not your kids. You're choosing that over your kids. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
So to revisit, and Kristen, you can share your journey too, but I want to revisit just to refresh our perspective. I was the luxury. I thought when I had my first baby, I loved my job. I worked all the way up until I couldn't work anymore. And I just told them like, oh no, I'm planning to come back. I just knew I would keep my job. I would continue working because I loved it so much. Well, then I became the mom. I had my first child, my daughter, and I fell so head over heels in love with motherhood that I was like, I can't bear to go back to work. I just want to spend every minute I can with my children. And we were lucky enough to be able to do that. And so for the next, 18 months to 2 years, I had added another child. So I have my son, and I still was in love with motherhood and all the things it brought me. And I was so far from perfect. I was so far from really understanding my role as a mother. I was learning on the job, literally. Even though I had babysat my whole junior high and high school, college days, I was nannying and babysitting and loved kids. It was different when it was yours. And so that role of mothering brought up so much. And then I went through, as I've shared, I went through a divorce, and I was now thrown back into the workforce and went back to the job I loved, but was managing as a single mom with 2 kids and a full-time job. And that wasn't super easy, but I made that work, and I had to learn a whole new aspect of myself and adjust that role and learn how to let go and go with what was up, right? Then I got remarried, and shortly after had my 3rd child, our first child. And from that point forward was a stay-at-home mom. Motherhood was my job. And I considered it just a privilege that I could be in that space and focus on them. After 5 children spread out over 13 years, it was still very busy. It was very chaotic. If each of them was in one sport, I was running between a baseball field and the swimming pool, for a swim team meet. And I was serving in the classrooms. Like, can I be 5 room moms at once? Who do I pick to be the room mom this year? Do I just rotate every 5 years? There was a lot of juggling of time. It was full time. I will tell you though, that my attitude toward that was, this is a privilege, and this is the most important thing I'll do in my lifetime. That's how I viewed it. And I poured my heart and soul into motherhood. And I came out of it with more good memories than probably my kids did. I think I enjoyed it more than they liked me being a full-time mom. But I cherished so many moments of that time. But I will tell you, it was stressful. The days were full of anxiety, finding a balance of parenting, because here's the challenges that were met for me as a full-time stay-at-home mom, is that my husband would work hard, and he'd get up before they woke up, and he was out the door. He worked hard every day. He worked many days, 6 days a week. And that was how he supported a family with 5 kids. It was a lot. And how he kept us afloat, for me to not have to contribute with my income. But that left me on my own all day. So I got kids to and from school. I took care of them, if I still had one at home that wasn't in school, or they were in preschool a half a day, or I was still going to the grocery store, making sure there was food for their lunchbox, making sure that they had clothes to wear, and the laundry was kept up and the house was kept up. Like, that was my job. And it was a monotonous job. And it was most days a very ungratifying job, because at the end of the day, no matter how clean the house got and how I got all the hampers emptied and clothes put away, at the end of the day, they were full, and it was a mess again. And the dishwasher needed unloaded again. And the kids said, "Mom, we're out of milk again." And I constantly felt like I wasn't on top of all of it, because I wasn't. And I carried a lot of triggering came from that. A lot of stress came from that, because I'm a people pleaser. I wanted to do a good job. I wanted them to say, "Mom, it makes me so happy that every time I think we're going to be out of milk, there's milk in the fridge. You're awesome." Like, kids don't do that. They don't say that. And I needed that. And then if I didn't get it from my kids, I would want it from my spouse, right? I would want Bob to come home and go, "Wow, you've had a big day, and a lot of times the house was at its worst when he walked in the door. So here was the role management. He would walk in after a long day, and he would often come in after dinner was done and cleaned up. And then I'd have to do dinner for him. And I thought it was my job to feed him too. And he would just want to be nurtured and relaxed. And it's like, man, I've come in from a hard day. I don't want to do any more work. My job kept going. My job was, I now have to get kids organized for school tomorrow, get kids bathed and ready for bed. They were independent. They could do they did foster a lot of self-care. I didn't have to do it, but I'm in the process with them, right? And I didn't have time until everybody was asleep and I was exhausted to even think about what would I need today. And if I got up super early, then I wasn't getting enough rest. I was cranky. If I didn't get up and give myself self-care time, I was stressed and cranky. And it just felt like there was no room. And having a talk with Bob about, you've got to take on responsibilities for the evening hours. I'm working all day, you're working all day, but from after work until we go to bed, we're equals in the parenting role. We need to equally divide and conquer. Otherwise, I'm working 24/7 and you're working 12 to 14, 6 days a week. So that took some work on our part as parents. If you're a single mom, you don't have that luxury. If you're a working mom, more has to get done after hours and before bed for both of you to divide and conquer. And in all of that chaos, where do you find time to live with you being a priority too? Like, how do you make yourself a priority? And this week, especially, I've had several of my clients really having a hard time as a stay-at-home mom with all of what I just said. And I started thinking about it like this, I struggled too. And this was, back in the 80s and the 90s. And now it's even worse. I didn't have social media. I don't even know when I got a cell phone, but I don't think we had texting or ways of communicating other than a landline. And I think a couple episodes ago, we talked about the importance of our community. And I had a community. I got involved in things. I had time that this was my time to go be on this committee or do this for girlfriends, to go out with my friends or to go away for a girls' weekend. And it had to be built in and I had to stay committed to it. And it gave me fuel. So I looked at it like I drove a big car because we had 5 kids. And I would go to the gas station. I had a really big tank. I forget, 30-gallon tank or 40-gallon tank. It was like a lot back then. I can't imagine now. And I would fill it up and I would run it to empty. It was like I didn't even have time to stop and get gas. I didn't want to take the time to stop and get gas. And I loved that I could go for 500 miles before I'd have to get another tank of gas. And I realized as a mom, that's how I operated. I went on my girls' weekend or I did something fun and nice for myself. I would get a big old dose of gas and fuel. I'd come back and it would carry me through until I was on empty. And when I was on empty again, I was snapping at my kids. I was stressed out. I can remember one time they pushed my every last nerve and I sat the 3 of the boys down on the couch and I just stood in front of them and screamed at them. And it's those things that haunt me. Like right now, I work with clients who are recovering from the trauma of something horrible happening in their childhood. And I'm recognizing I inflicted the same thing. When I let myself get stressed, I became the parent I didn't want to be. When I let myself get exhausted and run down and I didn't do things to fuel myself and to feed my soul and nurture myself, I took it out on everyone around me. And it scars. Those things leave wounds. And I loved my kids. I loved being a mother. I dearly adore all of them still today. But I know and I am seeing the results of some of those things. And it's not, I've done thankfully enough work on myself to be able to sit in that and not spiral into shame, but sit in it with compassion to say, yeah, I couldn't find my oxygen. I needed to breathe oxygen. And I let myself hold my breath way too long for way too many days without taking care of myself. So self-care is really important. Having an identity outside of just motherhood is vital. Whether you're serving on a church committee or part of a Bible study or a book club, or whether you have regular outings on, one day a week with a girlfriend, you've got to have a place to go that feeds your identity where you don't have to be a mom. And that's hard because you plan it and then somebody is sick and somebody has to stay home from school that day. And then you have to take off work or you have to cancel your once a week plan. And it's constant reinforcing, I still need it. So what's your experience, Kristen, kind of?
Well, I just wanted to chime in on something that you just said. It's also hard to make those plans because you don't have any energy left. Like,
right.
I would love to go hang out with my girlfriend, but if we made it every Monday night or once a month and I get to Monday, I'm like, I just don't have it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I get, and I keep thinking of, I had a day this past week where work is amping up. You got to get the kids off to school. I'm responsible, or I feel like I am, to make sure that I walk the dog throughout the day so he's not bored. My youngest son had spilled water on his bed, so I wanted to wash his sheets, make sure I had clean sheets. As soon as they got home, I had to take my oldest son and his friend to soccer practice, and then I had to go straight to the school for the open house, and I was just done. And we come home, the boys are at it with each other, dumping out they're making their own dinner because I couldn't do it. Like, it was late at night. I was done. I'd already made them tacos. They didn't want what I made them. That was another thing. I rushed to make dinner before we left, and they got mad at each other and they were spilling their macaroni on the ground. And I just looked at them. I'm like, I do not have the capacity for this right now. I didn't know what to do. I was about to freak out on them.
Yeah.
And I had no time for me. I didn't do my morning time that day. I rushed into the day. I had an 8:30 meeting.
Yep. And it makes a difference. Yeah.
Being a mom is a lot.
So it is. It's one of, think about how many people, every single person on the planet had a mom. There's a lot of moms and there's as many moms as there are us, and so I did some research on this. I want to share some things. First, I want to say that if you are a parent that considers themselves lucky to have had a very rewarding and joyful experience as a parent, then be blessed. I am one of those. I don't think my kids had as good a time as I did, but I deeply loved my role and the time I had with them and the fun that we created together. And I might be blocking out all the rest right now because I'm 20 years out of it. But for me, I cherish all of those memories and moments that I was so proud of my family and having the children and what we created. So that part, I feel like I'm one of those that can consider myself very blessed. But unfortunately, 35% of full-time working moms say they're frequently burned out by motherhood. And yet more than half do not see a mental health therapist. And that burnout that you were just describing, Kristen, is like such a common day in the day of many moms. For you, it might have been, I had that one day and I didn't have time for my morning time. And then the whole day just catapulted. But then you'll have a day where you do a good job. And some, it's that day every day because they never take time to get the mental health care, the emotional, the spiritual connection they need. So if you can find a way to build that in the morning, it should be non-negotiable to me. This is okay, never, ever, ever brush your teeth. We'd all find time to brush our teeth. We can't stand to skip that. Or never, never, ever wash your hair. why would we never, ever wash our hair? It's not like because we're just vain enough that we don't want to walk around with having never washed our hair. It shows the world that we didn't take care of ourselves. But we can't show our mental health, right? Like we're not showing our emotional health. Like the world doesn't see it. We're good at masking it. So we don't do it. And that is as important as a shower and brushing your teeth, is taking that time in the morning, even if it's 15 minutes, to do something with the intention of giving yourself something that you can enjoy, something that grounds you, something that nurtures you. For me, my morning coffee is my nurturing time. It's this sacred time with myself that says, let's breathe, let's relax, let's look at our day, but I need that calm in the way I start my day. I didn't get it when I was being a mom. I got up and I jumped on the treadmill and ran all day. And if I had done that, I think it would have been a much better mom. There's an article in the 2024 Maternal Mental Health State Report Card that the U.S. isn't providing mothers with the proper amount of maternal mental health therapists, psychiatrists, screeners, treatment programs, community-based resources. We're not talking about this enough. And we need to be, because momming is one of the most noble, sacred jobs that exists. And raising good people, raising people that aren't riddled with trauma and wounds of neglect and abuse. Taking care of our mental health is the number one responsibility we have as a human being, but especially as a mom, because it gets passed generation upon generation. Our world around us is changing. Our world around us is certainly stressed out. And we are isolated more than ever before. Isolation is one of the biggest things. And like you said, Kristen, I'm too tired to connect once I could. I don't have any energy left to go into my community. But I bet if you pushed through that fatigue and you allowed yourself to go out, if it's a quality interaction, you will get the fuel you need. So it's like saying, I'm too tired to fill my tank up with gas, but you've run out. You have to take the time and immerse. Now, is going out with people who want to bash their husband and drink alcohol all night fun for you? It might say, yeah, that makes me feel great. For you and me, Kristen, that would be like, no, that's not the interaction I need. That would deplete me. But what would be nice is if I had a friend say, hey, let's go take a walk and just chit chat with each other and enjoy each other's company, but end my day with some physical activity. Maybe that would work, but build your community.
I struggle with that a lot because I need my downtime and my quiet time as a introvert, sensitive empath. Like I really cannot force myself to go talk with a friend for 2 hours and walk. Like it's just too much.
Right. And so where do you get community time?
Right. That's a very good question.
Right. And it's the priorities, and you know yourself well. So I have to have that quiet time, but maybe I'm, as an introvert, relying too much on the quiet time for my well-being. I need to cut back of some of that, still have it. That's like, you have to have some of that every day, somewhere in your day, but somewhere in your week, you've got to have community. So putting that out there and saying, this is really important. And for some people, that means a meditation group, just belonging somewhere, showing up for a yoga class. And people are like, I'm so glad you're here. And you don't have to interact. And it's still quiet time and introspection and being on your mat. But you've belonged with a part of a community and you've connected before and after class. Coffee dates, lunch dates, just reaching out and reconnecting. I can't say enough about not being isolated. And the opposite of that is having a community. Because if you're disconnected from the adult interaction, like a lot of times my community was play dates and I'm still parenting. I'm not having a break from it and getting that point where I could just be with other adults, and a book club, because I like to learn, would be great, and stimulating conversation. That would feel good, but it needs to not drain your energy. It needs to feed it. So if it's draining, then find the right kind of belonging, but try to get into a community to give yourself a sense of identity outside of your role as a mom, or even, people that work and have children, but they are both parents work, have that. They have that. Yes, their job creates stress, but they have a place where they are identified for their gifts and talents outside of being a mom, where the gifts and talents rarely go noticed and acknowledged. I used to say, nobody ran up to me and said, Mom, I really love how the bathtub and the toilet are sparkling clean today. I don't think I ever heard that once in all my years of parenting. It gave me satisfaction, but it wasn't necessarily appreciated at the time. And so there's that. The isolation is a huge common stressor. Also, financial pressure of living on a single income right now. It almost feels like it's impossible with the state of our economy. I know people are really struggling with that. And if you live in an area of high cost living, it takes a 2-income family to be able to save for college, pay your bills, have 2 cars because you have 2 different needs in the family. It's like the way that our lifestyle has evolved from the 50s model of the stay-at-home mom to now is, or even the 80s and 90s model of a stay-at-home mom, where I did have to have my own car, but like my mom and dad shared a car. I don't know how they did it. My mom raised us without microwaves and even a washing machine, or she didn't have a dryer. She had a clothesline, but she raised 4 kids with so much less and so much more to do with less ways to do it. And then by the time I got there, I was like, wow, this is easy. I got the luxury of built-in washer and dryer. I got a microwave oven. I've got, my own car that I can drive, and it made it easier, still stressful. But today I look at my kids who, my most recent grandson was born, and both parents are trying to work, and they're both needing that income. And who, when he's sick and can't go to daycare, who stays home, which goes to another factor in what is happening with our stay-at-home moms or our stressed out moms who are working and being moms, is that we are geographically far apart from family. Most families stay close to each other for a long time. We didn't move away. And then we started learning that, our careers took us to different parts of the country, and families live in different states. So the old model that I grew up not near family. My parents were in a state no one else lived in, but we were very close to our extended family. And when my parents needed time for them to get away, my grandmother would come and stay with us. And now it's like, first, grandparents are working. Grandparents are still out there in the workforce too. So being able, I know as someone who's still working, it's hard for me to say, I wish I could drop everything and say, I'll stay home with them while you go to work because they have a sick day and can't go to school. It's harder to rely on. Either they're geographically relocated or they're still in the workforce and can't be available. So that support system that family often offered isn't being utilized, which I think is stressing our family units. I think it's making it hard for us to stay in that connected community of family. And then our time is preventing us from the collective community outside in our community of support. So wherever you land in that, if you have an in-law or a parent who is there to help with stuff like that, you're in a minority right now, and you should really be thankful for them. Because I know with me, during the last 10 to 12 years of my parenting days, my parents lived in the house, at least my mom did, and she was my backup. I had a backup, and it was so much easier with that. It was this luxury that I wished I'd had the whole time. I grew up watching the Waltons, and I just thought, I just want a house on Walton Mountain, and all my support lives in the same place, and we all help each other. But the financial pressure of needing to go to work, and then there's financial pressure for people with young children. If they did get a job, childcare is so incredibly expensive. And so it just creates more financial pressure. And then what you talked about, Kristen, that carving out time for themselves, it's mandatory that you carve out time for yourself because you will burn out. You cannot do 24/7, even though they all sleep, and you might be lucky to get 6 hours of time for self-care. I got to sleep for 6 hours, but you need more. You need more than that.
Yeah. I remember when I actually had to go into the office, I work from home. It was a million times worse. We would drop our kids off at before care at 7 a.m. and pick them up at aftercare at 6 p.m. And they were at school all day, and you feel guilty about it, but you're also trying to succeed in your profession. Like, there's so many conflicting things happening. And I remember, like you said, it would get to a point where everybody was sleeping. Okay, this is my time. Then I would stay up late because I finally had some quiet time and I could watch TV or read a book or do something that I wanted to do. That was my only time. But then it cut into my sleep. And then I'm like, well, what?
And then the importance of sleep to brain health, is huge.
Right.
And so now we're compromising our brain health. And so
I can say the ideal working mom situation for me is being able to work from home.
Yes.
Because I can keep up with the house. I can take breaks and do things. Cleaning actually relaxes me. That's kind of weird, but I can take breaks and do things like that.
And your boys are older, so they can be home and allow you to work and know how to take care of themselves enough to not keep interrupting you all day long with something if they're just feeling awful, and they can lay on the couch and watch TV and you can check on them.
Yeah. I always envied moms with young kids that seemed like they just knew how to do it. Like, they could just they were the perfect mom. Yeah. I am so glad those years are over. I feel really bad saying that, but it did not come naturally to me.
Yeah.
I felt guilt and shame because it didn't come naturally to me. And now that they're finally independent, it's like, oh my God, I can breathe. I mean, it's different challenges. They fight with each other. It's a freaking lot. I mean, they're boys. Yeah. They annoy each other. It's a normal sibling thing. But it's too much stimulation for me sometimes.
Yeah. And you touched on something I want to talk about for working moms especially, and I think it applies to moms in general, is that word guilt of never feeling like we've got it together, never feeling like we're doing enough. If we're leaving work, with a pile still left to do, or if we stay and get our desk cleared and our email cleared, we've taken time from the family time, and it's just never enough to go around. And it's such a stress. They say that many, many working moms experience guilt for not being able to spend as much time with their children as they'd like. And then they don't enjoy the time they do have with them, which makes them feel guilty, like they're not a good mom, right? And so those are all things to pay attention to. They are not little things. And for all you moms out there that are stressed out, for all of you working moms out there feeling like you're not enough, I just want to say, hear me say, you're doing okay. You might not be getting it perfect every day. Well, I can guarantee you're not, but that's not the goal. The goal is to be doing your best every day and recognizing that if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't learn boundaries, you have to master the art of letting some things go. They're not going to all get done. You're not going to have your house run perfectly all the time. Kids are kids. They forget. They get to school and forget their science project. What are we going to do about that? It's exasperating because now I have to cancel a meeting, or that was my free time and now I have to give it up because you didn't do what you were going to do. And we yell at them or let them feel our energy of frustration. This is going on every day for every mom in America and probably around the world. I think slowing down, letting go of what isn't mandatory. You have to reprioritize if you feel yourself reaching that limit of burnout, of stressed out, of unhappiness, of not feeling fulfilled, of not even being able to enjoy this beautiful time that you have raising your family. Like, there are things you can do. I think that in general, the stressors that all moms experience are, one, health concerns. We worry about the health and well-being of our children, which causes us to take on more. It causes us to trust less. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if I can trust them being taken care of by someone. Like, how do we know? There's so many things out there, so we take on more. I don't know if I can trust letting another person pick them up in their car. What if they have a wreck? I hear these things on my calls with moms. So they don't let that help support them because they're so afraid that something is going to happen. When you see it, you do as much as you can, but know that it takes a community. We weren't meant to do this all by ourselves.
That's what I'm thinking the whole time we're talking, like we're putting so much pressure on ourselves. It wasn't supposed to be that way, but we're still rushing along with the way society is telling us to be. And it's not.
And what we want. So educational pressure, that decision, my kids, well, when I grew up, there wasn't an option. It was just, this is what you did. You went to kindergarten, then you went to school in a public school. I don't even recall if there was a private school. I know my best friend went away to a private school in high school. But most of the time growing up, everybody was just in school, in the same school. We all knew each other for the whole 12 years. Nowadays, you are having to get in the right preschool, and then that preschool feeds into the right school district. And then there's homeschool, there's private school, there's Christian schools, there's Montessori schools, there's home-based co-ops, there's homeschools. There's so many options that it's overwhelming as a parent when they start going, where's the best place for my child to get the best education? And I see parents saying, with me at home. So now we're 24/7 moms. We're daytime school teachers, which you're wearing the mom hat and this teacher hat at the same time. And I will tell you, I was a homeschool mom for 3 years with one of my children. We did every educational experience there is out there that I just mentioned. We did them all. It was what's working for the child, what's working for us as a family, what's working for me, but sometimes that means, and even having kids in two different schools stretches you because you're managing two different ways of getting them to and from, even if it's a natural progression from elementary school to junior high. I don't think they're called that this day and age, or that's my very old age showing. But all of these things we take on, like, how do I keep them healthy? And then I see moms stressed out because we need to make sure they don't eat this and too much of that, or they're so stressed out that their kids are living off fast food. And then they say, I feel guilty. There is so much on our shoulders. There's so much that we've taken on. And then the emotional labor that we take on of managing, are my kids' emotional needs being met? That's the biggest one of all. They are stressed out. Kids are stressed out. They have more ADD and ADHD showing up. Kids are showing up with more anxiety. Kids are showing up with more food allergies or allergies, and all related back to a stress and a quality of life. We didn't see these things before. I was just at my dentist and we were talking about this, that we have to worry about the quality of the foods and the water in our country because we're seeing so many disorders, digestive disorders that are culminating into disease. And having to worry about that too is like, really? And then the emotional labor it takes to balance the role of motherhood and the role of a career, or the role of the stay-at-home mom, and the role of educators, the role of emotional regulators. And then let's get down to, where the heck do we nurture the relationship with our spouse? If you are doing this in a partnership, how do you find time for nurturing and caring for that most important relationship. Because at the end of raising kids, you have to look at each other and still like each other. You have to look at each other and still know something about each other so that you're not just transactional in your relationship. And it takes just as much time. You've got kids. If I had 5 kids, I had a 6th one, which was called nurture this relationship. I have a marriage. It's just as much a part of our family unit. And if I neglect it, the family loses.
It sounds like to me, the more you keep talking, that like the weight of the family is on the mom's shoulders in a sense. Like that stigma is still, I think, highly there of the 50s mom, no matter if you're working full time or not. Like my husband does not want to make dinner when he comes from home. He is very tired. He's had a long day, but I work from home, so I should be making the dinner. Like he does a lot too, but I still think the weight of the family is on the mom. And where do we get to 50-50?
Right. And can we?
Yeah.
Can we ever? And
That's
should
a good question.
It is built in. And I find ourselves, me included, wanting, we want that equality. We want that freedom to pursue a career and a calling, to have work that we contribute to. And if everybody's pursuing that, where is the weight of the family? Because does it end up in the community? Who's responsible for it? At the end of the day, who's responsible for that family's maintaining health and overall mind, body, spirit, day-to-day functioning? It still does land on a mother's heart. We're built for that. And we're trying to do more and share that. And dads can help more. They have a very critical role too. And their presence in the family is we can look at the homes that were fatherless. There's all kinds of problems that come from fatherless children, especially in certain demographics. We need the male role model. We need the balance of masculine and feminine energy. And it doesn't have to be in gender roles. We have that in my kids. I mentioned my son is being the weight of the family is on him, learning how to balance and bring the nurturing energy into their home and take the weight of the family on. But even that has stigma. Even he has trouble. It's like there's all the moms in the preschool they all go do yoga after drop off, and he's like, I can't really fit into that model. It's like, what are you doing here? If we're at the park and I sit with another mom who's sitting on the bench while the kids are on the playground, it's not like talking to another guy. And so finding friends for him, and finding his place in the community and not having the stigma of what's wrong with you that you're not working. What does that model look like? People aren't accepting of it that way either. And so what are we creating for ourselves? What are we moving toward with regard to our roles of parenting, our roles of family responsibilities, and family togetherness, and respect and appreciation for the challenges that each family has, no matter whether I have the challenge of staying home as a full-time mom with no time for myself and trying not to burn out, whether I have the challenge of balancing my work life and my home life, whether I'm having trouble balancing responsibility between me and my husband and who does what after we work all day. I'm having trouble balancing my identity in the community as a working mom or a stay-at-home dad. I mean, we're juggling roles and responsibilities. And I hate to say it, but I sometimes look at it, at least what shows up in front of me and my clients and what I see in my friends and family is that I don't know how well it's working. I don't know how well we're doing. I don't know if I'd give us an A in how well are we meeting the needs of the family. and each other. And so I guess my point for this topic today is to revisit, what do we need? Each family is different. There are so many different models of what the family is. And then is it a blended family? Like now we have blended family with kids that come on the weekend and leave on, Sunday night. And we have kids going from the family and coming back on Sunday night. And we have, half siblings, and we have step siblings, and all these other family people to consider in how we interact and manage ourselves. It's a constant juggling. And my niece was here recently. I have the best nieces. I just love them. And she was talking about, someone told her this, and I want to share it with all the moms out there, because I thought, wow, I'm a visual. As you all have learned, I'm very visual. And she said, you are juggling. If we list all the things that you're doing, you work, you're a mom, you're a wife, you keep your house, you volunteer in the community, you show up for your friends, you take care of your extended family. Like, she named all the balls and she's juggling 10. If you think you had 10 balls and you're juggling them all day long, with the fear that at one point through the day, one of those balls is going to drop. And that brings anxiety. I can see it on Kristen's face right now. You all can't, but that brings up anxiety. And she said, but think of it this way. Most of those are rubber balls. Only a few of them are made of glass. So while you're juggling, focus on the ones that you absolutely don't want to drop the ball on, and let that be your priority. I would say self-care. I would say my child's well-being. I would say my relationship with my spouse, if there's one there in the house, or my family in general, like the family unit. Those are really important, or else why did we even have a family? But those are real important. Those are the glass balls. With self-care means my health, right? My health, my mental health, my physical health. That's a glass ball. And as a mom, we turn it into a rubber ball. We think we'll just keep bouncing back.
That would be an interesting exercise, because when you actually physically do these exercises instead of mentally thinking about what Jenny's saying, if you write down all of your balls, okay, which ones are the glass ones, and circle those. And then you're seeing them. I think it would be more profound.
Absolutely. And when you've identified which ones are made of glass, when it comes to your day-to-day living, those are your priorities. That's where you put your time. Yes, you still have to show up for these other balls that are in the air. But when those rubber balls that are important too, when those take priority over the glass balls, you're out of balance. Something is going to happen that is hard to repair, because picking up glass shards and trying to piece them all back together is a lot harder than letting a rubber ball bounce back up and go back into rotation.
Here's a very small, minor example of a rubber ball that I had to let go of. My dog chews up toys and it's all over the carpet. I could be vacuuming 3 times a day, so the carpet is where I want it to be, and the couch.
Yes. I
had to let it go. It was going to stress me out. I'm like, Kristen, it's okay. You can do it every other day. Who cares?
Right. And to change the way you look at that, because my dog does that too. And sometimes she's got that cotton filling hanging out of her mouth. And she just looks at me like, I know I'm probably in trouble. And there's cotton balls all over the place. And I've learned to find joy in that. I've learned to see she had such a good time. It's what dogs do. That's her being her, and accepting that that's what our dogs do. And so I look at Penny and I'm like, you just had so much fun. It's okay.
That's true.
And I get joy from it, and I don't get stressed like I have to vacuum it. So that's a great example of transforming something that you don't keep in the carpet vacuumed all day long is a rubber ball that it really is something you can let go of.
Well, and I think you just gave another tool too, is where can you find the joy? Look for the joy. I just watched with my son the new Inside Out movie, the second movie, and it's about anxiety battling joy.
Wow.
And it was really, you would actually really like this, Jenny. It was interesting to watch. And once you hit puberty, anxiety starts to take over and manage things and making sure that they're catching all the worst case scenarios, and joy of your young childhood kind of falls away because you're so aware of how people are looking at you, how you're presenting yourself in the world. Like, it was a really eye-opening movie, but joy is a great tool.
Yes. If you're not finding a source of joy every single day, your self-care ball is being neglected. To me, it's the number one reason for self-care. And, maybe self-care is going and getting a mammogram, not exactly a joyful experience, but you took care of yourself. You still have to find something that brings you joy. You still have to stop afterward and buy an ice cream cone, or stop afterward and buy yourself some flowers and take them home that every time you look at them, it makes you smile. Find something to do that brings you joy. Giving to others can bring some people joy, as long as I found myself like, it would make me so happy to make a homemade bread and take it over to, my neighbor who's sick. And then I found myself so stressed out trying to get this bread made, trying to find a note card to put with it, staying up late, not getting sleep, really not enjoying that experience, to the point that it's like, I need to not do this right now. I need to do this at a time when I can actually enjoy the process, because the energy I was putting into the bread probably was going to make it not taste good at all.
You mean you didn't sing to the food like Deva?
No, I wasn't that time. I was like, and I noticed it. And it's like, no, I'm going to wait until this is a more joyful thing I can offer. But cooking for my family usually brings me joy when I have time to do it, but every day I want to challenge our listeners out there to two categories of listeners. If you're not a mom, first of all, and people that are moms, no matter what age they are, find ways to support them. Find ways to give them a little bit of energy that day. Be a source of joy for them, because as you could hear from our call today, like, it's a big drain. Motherhood could be very draining. And so if you aren't a mom and you see a mom that's struggling with her kid in the grocery cart who's throwing a tantrum, don't be that mom that judges and looks at her like, you need to get better. You need to do better. Your kid's really not behaving very well. Give her strength, give her support, give her encouragement, give her kindness, say a prayer for her if nothing else, but please don't judge.
I always look at moms in those situations at the grocery store, and I acknowledge them. I smile at them like I understand them, like I've been there, and you see their body relax.
You do. And we need more. That right there is huge when you see somebody, or see a mom that is having fun and their kid's fun, and just say to them, watching you with your child brought me so much joy. I can see the love between you.
Oh, it would melt my heart if that happened.
Right? Me too. I'm sitting here like, whoa, what would that have felt like? We need to water our moms. We need to give them refreshment and encouragement. But if you are a mom, I would love for you to start the practice of starting your day choosing joy, choosing something today that's going to mindfully give yourself joy. And at the end of the day, remember it. Say, oh, today that brought me so much joy. And then maybe I get 2. And then next day, maybe I found 3. But increase your joy factor. You have to be mindful of it, but increase the joy factor throughout your day and mindfully attach to it. Somebody sent me an Instagram video and I reel or something, and it made me laugh. And laughter brought me joy. That was a good moment, right? And so but just increase your joy factor. And I want you to do the exercise of find the glass balls and live into those priorities and let some of the other stuff go. We are carrying too much weight, whether a working mom or a stay-at-home mom. They're both equally as challenging, in my opinion. And we are carrying too much weight on our shoulder, too much responsibility, too much information. I mean, I got overwhelmed 20 years ago. Now it's even worse about do this, do that. what parents are doing right, what parents are doing wrong. And then you pick up the next magazine article and it's like, no, that's wrong. And you need to do it this way. And it's like, we're not trusting ourselves. We're looking outside ourselves too much for that guidance on how to get it right. And we're so stressed out, we're getting it wrong.
Yeah. I read a book once that's kind of going along what you're saying as a woman in the household to find 3 things that bring you joy every day and make sure that it doesn't have to be the same thing, but every day. And the one thing I was thinking about, because I think about being a rushed mom, like you feel rushed. When you do have those things that bring you joy, like let's say it's a chai tea latte, don't pick it up from Starbucks and drive real fast. Take at least a minute to really sit there and be slow and take in the joy of, oh, this tastes so good. It relaxes my body. Oh, this smells so good. Like,
yes,
slow down in those moments, even if it's for 30 seconds.
Yeah, we do drive-by joy. We do
drive-by joy. Yes.
It's like drive-by joy, and we don't let it in. And for me, that's my morning coffee routine, is embracing the joy of it. It is a ritual. It is not fuel and caffeine or way to get amped up for the day. For me, it's literally that pleasure and memory of it. It takes me to a place in my heart. I share this with people. There's such an ordeal about my morning coffee. So it's non-negotiable for me. That's my start to the day. It's the one thing I know I did for myself to start the day. I start my day with me. And that's how.
You kind of ingrained that in me. I have, my meditation practice changes constantly, but now the first 5 minutes I meditate with my eyes closed. The second 5 minutes I'm drinking my coffee and doing absolutely nothing and enjoying every sip of it. And I think of you every time.
Yes, it's the best. It's the best. And
it's hard though. It's hard not to do anything else but drink your coffee.
Well, you know what? And we're going to close out, but I want to open up a can of worms here. But multitasking causes stress. Multitasking means you are not present to one thing, fully present. If we are drinking coffee and doing emails, we're not fully present to the joy of relaxing with a cup of coffee. If we are multitasking all day long, trying to do 2 jobs at the same time, we are never fully present to one. We're divided. So I was so proud of myself. Like one of my quirky things is efficiency. I really like efficiency. So multitasking is the best way to be efficient. So I became a master multitasker. I could do so much in 1 hour because of multitasking. I would be like, look at me go. And I was never fully present. And especially when it comes to self-care, to fully be present for me, to fully allow myself to be in that moment, to fully allow myself to be in, it felt like an indulgement. I would indulge myself to just do one thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bee buzzing around constantly in work mode, which is what I feel like when I multitask and never landing. And even bees need to rest and sleep and take care of themselves. And a bee is a good example of that, because if they start not being healthy, the whole hive dies. The whole community dies. So we have to find our balance. We have to find our joy. If you're unable to do that, you have to look at your priorities. If your priorities are out of whack and you can't align them, you have to look at why. What in my life is so out of whack that I can't find peace and I can't find joy and I can't find time to take care of myself? Something is so out of whack. And it's hard, you guys, because some of these questions and some of these exercises might lead you to a reality that means a complete lifestyle change. It might mean downsizing. It might mean giving up. It might mean aligning to something that feels like 2 steps back instead of the 2 steps forward that your goal is representing. But when it comes to motherhood, it's a short window of your life that you're in that space with all these balls to juggle. And there will be time later for
some of these other things. But there's not time later for you if you don't take care of you. And there's not time later, there's not a guarantee later that you and your kids can repair from the damage done because you were a stressed out, burnt out mom that lost her passion and joy along the way.
That's a good way to put it. My mother-in-law had said to me, she knows, you think of like, even in your job when you're older, you still like are getting graded, but you don't think about your children grading you once they're out of the house.
Yeah.
So think about in this moment, is my kid going to give me an A or a D minus? Like, how am I doing here?
And I have to say, as children who are out of the house, I haven't got a very good report card. I am in that space, and I've had to do a lot of work on self-forgiveness and compassion around doing the best I could and accepting they're on their path now. And we'll talk about that in upcoming episodes, because motherhood doesn't stop when they leave the house. You are always a mom, whether you're in a relationship or not with them, good or bad. And your role of caregiving changes, but your role continues nonetheless. So that might be a great topic for an upcoming episode, is what's next? What is the next steps? What happens to that role? So today, we hope you haven't been overwhelmed or discouraged listening to some of this. I hope you've been inspired to take some action that says, I have to take care of myself. It is part of taking care of the family. I have to find ways to feel joy. It's where I get my fuel to give back to my family. I have to find ways to have an identity outside of motherhood so that I nurture all the aspects of who I am. I have to have good communication skills with my family, my partner, my children, in the balance of expectations within our family so that we are all getting our needs met. And I'm not sacrificing mine to a point of destruction. Yeah.
Another layer too is they're watching you.
Yes.
Your actions are what they are going to know how to use when they get older.
Right.
So even if they don't want to admit they're going to use those tools, like they're learning from you.
How many people say, I'll never be my mom, end up going, oh my gosh, I've become my mom. And it's because you were programmed through those actions. So don't program them to be that way.
So slowing down for yourself is also helping your children learn to regulate themselves.
Right. They have to learn how to find joy and slow down and take care and understand stillness isn't a bad thing. All right, you guys, I hope this has been helpful, enlightening. I would like you to listen, share this with a friend, another mom maybe that is struggling. And after that, make a plan together, and have some accountability for how you're going to use some of the tips that we've talked about today. Build your community, build time in for you. Don't multitask it away or be dropped by joy. Really indulge yourself with it and see if you don't find light in that very heavy workload of home, family, and career if you're a working mom. Always do whatever presents itself, whichever ball you're tossing in the air next. Just remember, do it with love. Take care. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you found a spark of wisdom to carry with you, and maybe even a deeper invitation to heal and grow and transform through your own beautiful story. Or maybe this episode made you think of someone who could use encouragement. And if so, I hope you will share it with them. If you'd like to learn more about working with me or attending one of my healing retreats, coaching programs, and other offerings, you can visit my website at jennyaiello.com or email me directly at jenny@jaiello.com. You'll find all the links in the show notes. If today's episode touched you, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with someone who might need it, or just reach out and let me know how it landed for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm building something special here. Real stories, real life, real connection. One episode, one heart, and one story at a time. As always, with love. Oh, and this is the legal message, but mostly a message from my heart. And I just need to share this with you right now. Please know this podcast is offered solely for educational and entertainment purposes. If you find yourself triggered due to anything that was shared in this podcast, please seek professional help. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for mental health services. While I am a professional life coach, I am not a psychotherapist, nor am I a mental health clinician. So if you are struggling emotionally, please seek help because you matter, you are important, and most of all, you are worthy of doing this work, the work that leads you to a better and healthier place. Okay? All right. Thank you. And please always make enough time to take care of yourself and do so with love.